Hello, my name's Collage, and recently I uploaded my hardest level that took me 35 plus hours to upload. This is probably one of my greatest achievements in the game. This level consists of some of the most jankest tech I've ever done, so this video is going to go in extreme detail on how to do all these tricks for the people who are crazy enough to attempt this absolute jank fest of a level. Now to begin with, this is something I dealt with because my fingers kept accidentally pressing the wrong Z buttons during some attempts, so I had disabled my right bumper and trigger throughout this whole upload process. Of course, if you don't have any random finger spasms like I did, just keep doing what works for you. For the players who are going to grind this level, the practice sections I made in the level itself are not going to be good enough, especially for the transitions. I tried my best. Unfortunately, I value my level slots, so there will not be a practice level for this level. So here's a level in its full entirety for you to rebuild if you really need to. I'd recommend it. If you want to go off of screenshots, those will be in my Discord and the hashtag level screenshots channel. Link in the description. Just a note, every hidden block has a big flying boo ring. The first cannon has a big potaboo that you barely see, the second has flying coins, the third has nothing since it's a shell setup that I found from player Logjet, the tweet of which will be in the description. By the way, there's a concrete block directly under the beetle. The fourth has a buzzy helmet with a parachute, the fifth has flying coins, the sixth has nothing and is like the other setup, but instead with a bomb on top. All these note blocks have big flying boo rings. These ones in the bomb section have small flying boo rings. The thwomp activating the P switch is centered with a muncher so that this setup is consistent. Behind the first bumper are 3 on-off switches, behind the second is this setup. Most of the aesthetics don't really matter besides for some, like the ones in the bomb room, which are kinda like indicators on where to land more or less. Though the most important one is this mushroom platform. Don't forget that. The starting room consists of only 2 tricks, the up throw bonk and the mid-air spin jump thing. Don't really know what it's called. For the up throw, try to throw it near in between the red block and turn block. If you go more right of that, you'll most likely go over the bomb and it likely falls off. More left and you don't hit the turn block, which not activated doesn't allow you to get into the main part of the level. The jump from the shell is a control jump and probably one of 4 that are in the level. If you do a full jump, you'll just hit the spike. Big sad. Min jump on the bomb, and when going into the spring, you can either do 1, make yourself flush against the wall, which gives you more time on land when going into the bomb, or 2, go directly into or halfway in the spring, which barely gives you any time on land and you practically have to jump immediately. I go with option 1. For the jump going into the bomb, I do a small jump bonking the bomb about halfway up of it. Regrab right after holding jump, and as soon as you bounce the bomb, go to the right immediately while holding jump. Remember that the jump going into the bomb, you have to be holding left all the way, otherwise you won't even bounce on the bomb. Now as said before, this level is hella jank, so I think it's a good time to bring up the first jank thing about it. Luckily, it's the good type of jank, an alt strat if you will. I don't know what causes it directly, but I figure it's that you do the up throw bonk so optimally that you bounce on the bomb early enough that it's more right of the platform than usual. Or when going into the bomb, you bonk it a specific way, maybe 3/4 above the bomb, perhaps both. This causes the bomb to land on the on-off switch, which makes it have more airtime. This was easier than the original strat when I was ready for it, but it barely happened and it wasn't reliable enough to get good at. Coming out of the pipe, do not hold run, otherwise you'll grab the dry bone shell. Enter the shell and hold run immediately after. Jump on the boo and bonk your head near the concrete block to then dismount off of it to re-grab it. If you're familiar with this setup, this shouldn't be a big deal, just hold run after bonking and dismounting. Try to bonk your head near the concrete block. If you're accidentally holding up bonking on the pipe, you'll go into the pipe. Don't worry though, this is one of the 2 reset methods you can do. It shouldn't affect the shell setup above. The second is if you throw the dry bone shell the wrong way, you can do a power drop to re-enter the pipe. After grabbing the shell, land on the flying Koopa going to the right. Jump to the right and turn left when you're about under the concrete blocks. Up throw the shell about flush with the concrete blocks, immediately turn right to grab the flying POW. If you're too late on the turnaround, you'll bonk on the POW and fall to your death. This POW throw is a bit specific. When throwing the POW, you have to throw it when you're a bit above the cloud that's holding the spring you need. The higher the better, just not high enough to where you hit the concrete block instead of the sideways spring. If you throw the POW too low, the POW will be more likely to carry the spring more to the right of it, which makes it really hard to land on or impossible at times. After throwing the POW, you have to jump off the ice blocks going flush to the wall. Make sure you neutral your stick or D-pad when going into the spring and out of it. I made that specifically so you don't really have to control your movement too much. You can press left if the spring is far enough to the left on the POW and that you're confident you won't bounce on the spring. When you get on the POW, you can then press left and do a controlled jump to the Koopa. This is controlled so you don't go over the buzzy shell when it falls from the POW explosion. Sometimes if you control your jump specifically so that you fall near the buzzy as it falls, you can do a reclaim. This is one of the things I kept track of in the grind since it was unintentional. I got 109 reclaims. Face right just before landing on the Koopa, then up throw. You can up throw too late and not make the muncher bounce up, so be wary of that. Bouncing off the Koopa can shift your momentum off of the wall. This is similar to if you're running towards a wall and jump to it, you can turn around from it and keep your speed going the opposite direction. Grab the falling shell and turn around and do a shell jump. This is only one of 3 shell jumps you have to do in the level. Wahoo! Make sure you grab the spring when going onto the cloud. This part can be a bit variable since sometimes you can be a bit above the cloud or land directly on it from the shell jump. When you get on the cloud, you need to get speed for the next jump. You can't just jump immediately. Up throw the spring so the big muncher isn't in the way when you do the next jump, as well as it pushes the thwomp you'll need for later. Jump to the right while grabbing the spring. Now you don't have to do a turn back when jumping here, but it helps you not bonk on the bullet blaster. Note that really the spring can get stuck in between the icicle and muncher. So sorry if this ruins runs, I had no idea how to fix it. I think to avoid it, try to throw the spring up from the cloud, and not when jumping. I think. Yet another variable thing in this level is this bullet blaster jump. You need to be prepared for 2 outcomes after you jump off the bullet blaster. One being that you don't hit the wall and you just go under. For this situation, you need to up throw the spring to where it touches the wall from its right momentum. You can, however, throw up too early where the spring bounces off the sideways spring or just lands on the spikes above. The second situation is that you go directly flush on the wall. If this happens, just hold right and up throw. Remember that you have momentum going to the left from the thwomp blaster setup, so if you make one slight turn back, you go straight to the spikes. Now to be honest, for this next section, you don't have to go immediately. I wouldn't really call it cheese since you are timed by the buzzy beetle waking up, just ruins the flow of the level however. I could have added something to prevent you from waiting, but I ran out of entities, so oh well. To do it the way I did, you don't want to go full speed on the red blocks, however, you want to do a slight tapping movement on the stick or D-pad. A bit hard to explain without showing my hands, but that ain't happening. If you go full speed, you're more than likely to up throw it too early and bonk on the bumper, up throw it too late and not activate the switch, or just fall off. When you get to the second red block, up throw the shell from the ground and then jump immediately, avoiding bonking on the switches as well as re-grabbing it. I don't do a turn back on this part, but you may be able to if it helps. However, you will have to make sure you don't up throw the dry bone shell facing to the left, otherwise you'll kill the buzzy shell. So that's the way I did it. I honestly could have shaved a few hours off my grind if I took my time, but to be fair, that's like the easiest part of the level so it doesn't change too much. Plus, it looks cooler. If you want to do it from a standstill, no one's stopping you from doing so. So for the vine section, you can take as much time as you need here to get it right, while as much time as it takes before the buzzy wakes up. I did 3 up throws. The first being to just get it into the air coming from the red blocks, the second to line yourself up with the vine for the upcoming shell jump, and the third is to have it in the air when you are doing the shell jump. When you're doing these up throws, make sure to be more or less in the vine. Doing it too far to the right will make you hit the turn block and drop the spring you need to get the dry bone shell moving for the next trick. Also, try to be on the tippy top of the vine. This will make the shell jump much easier and won't make you collide with the falling dry bone shell. One last thing for the up throws. When you're adjusting yourself on the vine, always have right to be your last input, so when you jump, you will be facing right instead of the left and won't collide with the buzzy. When going off the vine, do a running jump off of it and line yourself up with the concrete block to keep your momentum. Do the shell jump and grab the dry bone shell. Now this next trick is a variation of a trick I saw on Twitter from Luna, or at least it inspired me to try to put it into the level, which didn't work. probably the first quote-unquote accident trick of the level. Essentially, you want to up throw the dry bone shell above where the background aesthetic starts. When you get in the shell, try not to be flush with the wall, otherwise the dry bone shell will fly off to the right. Now this next input is a bit odd. For the original trick, you want to ground pound cancel and dismount almost immediately one after another. For this variation, however, you want to ground pound for a bit longer than you normally do, just a bit under the background aesthetic, and then cancel and dismount, hitting the spring to get speed and directing yourself to the red coin. The gentle slope is there to help you, though I've had an attempt where I didn't use it and I still made it to the pipe. You should be ahead of the shell at this point. Also, I just want to show some jank that I can't explain that only happened once or twice throughout the attempts. If this happens to you, well, shit. When you're going into the springs, you practically have to direct your momentum immediately in the directions they make you go in, so you can get onto the dry bone shell moving on the pipe. Make sure you don't jump too early on the second spring. You need to run a bit on the clouds and then jump. Luckily, I don't make you throw the spring like I originally made you do, so the next few sections are a bit easier. When you get into the dry bone shell, do a controlled jump to be just under the background aesthetic, so you don't hit the thwomps. Do one ground pound cancel to stop your momentum, and a second one to stall for the flying boo. The mushroom stem aesthetic is there to help you line yourself up. Try to be to the right side of it so you can activate the thwomp. After you land on the boo, do a controlled jump onto the thwomp. Make sure you don't press any other direction besides down so you don't accidentally fall off. Just to note, I am aware that you can stand on the left edge of the spikes and just wait for the boo to fall down. Though I don't mind because it's hard to land there with the momentum you have, as well as the boo can move and be a little unpredictable where it is. And it's blind. If you do that strat, well, as I said before, nothing I can do to stop you from doing so. After you take your ride on the thwomp and blink, this is the only place in the level you can, the concrete block will take you out of your dead form when you get off the thwomp. Make sure you are holding left when you're in your dead form and bounce off the big boo. This might be a little bit hard to see since the thwomp is dying in front of you, but you need to dismount off the dry bone shell after bonking on the ceiling, then up there at the lowest point possible. I say this because the shell can get stuck up on the platform above. I'd say around here is when you should do it. For this shell jump, try to throw the shell from the left wall so you can be the farthest away from the on-off switch and so it won't go through you. It is possible to not hit the on-off switch and still do the rest of the tricks properly, so be careful of that. Now when you're in the air, try to stay in the middle when throwing the dry bone shell. Too far to the right and you go into the conveyor or hit the turn block with your head. Too far left and you don't have enough height to get into the moving shell. When throwing the dry bone shell, I like to describe the inputs as surfer inputs, the same ones you use for surfer shell jumps. Try to throw it as soon as possible, enough to get it into the conveyor and then be flush with the turn block. When you get into the shell, do not jump out immediately. If you do, you will hit the moving shell. Stay in the shell long enough to where you don't hit the shell as well as not bonk the ceiling. Go towards the spring, then left to the shell and jump onto the note block. And hey, you're halfway throughout the level, but only in time, not in difficulty. This next section is the worst accident that I've ever made. Being only 9 to 10 seconds long of a 46-second long level, I would say it's about 40 to 50% of the difficulty of the level. To give more context, when I was doing attempts, about less than 10 made it past this part. This is where most of the jank is, and I'm gonna try my best to explain how to do this part and how to avoid the jank. This is the only precision-like part in the level. When you get onto the note block, big boy jump on it and stay flush with the edge of the screen. Move right a bit before you reach the apex of your jump, which will be halfway above the thwomp. Go onto the red blocks and kinda edge spin jump to the right corner of the thwomp. Hold left to hit the spring. This helps to prevent yourself from not being able to land on the bullet blaster, and then hold right when you reach just above the bullet blaster. This is really hard for me to tell when I start holding right. Just know from this point, you have to be on the left edge of the blaster. Run on the bullet blaster for a bit, and around here, spin jump and hold right. This part can jank out a lot and is only the beginning of the jank. Here's what can happen. You can miss landing on the bullet blaster. You land far too right of the bullet blaster, which causes you to jump too early. You don't jump and run on the spikes. Or you do too early of a jump from the red blocks, which activates the thwomp too early and you get boot blocked. Now the jump from the blaster to the bomb is super precise. You can never overshoot it, only undershoot. When you do this jump, you will bonk a flying bomb that will land here. Just to keep track of these bombs, we'll number them 1, 2, and 3. Bomb 1 is the one you bonked up, and bomb 2 is the one you're headed to. Bomb 2 will bounce on the note block here. Make sure you are holding right until you hit the spring. Once you hit the spring, you will neutral your stick or D-pad. You will stay neutral and holding jump until you land on this top note block. Now the spin jump is hella jank. You want to spin jump not immediately, but just when the sprite is about halfway down. Hold left and spin jump. You will bonk bomb 2, arcing it to the note block that bomb 1 will also go on. You should be ahead of bomb 2 at this point. While still holding left, you will bounce bomb 1 to this note block, and it should bounce up after it reaches the left side of the note block. If it hits the left wall, well, it janked out. I'm gonna be honest, I have no clue why this happened. My educated guess is that it landed too close to the note block, and that will probably be caused by you doing your jump from the bullet blaster too early. If all things go right at this point, you should be bonking bomb 3 to the left. Bomb 1 should just be coming below you, and bomb 2 should be falling on the note block. Once you hit bomb 3, almost immediately hold right. You do not want to bounce off of bomb 1, but instead, you need to get under it when it's falling. You also need to bonk it twice. Once when you're falling, which will cause it to move to the right side a bit, and the second time when you're going up off of bomb 2, bonking it to the concrete block above, killing the big thwomp. This is the hardest movement in the level. So many things can get screwed up here. You can only bonk bomb 1 once, you can bounce off bomb 1, you can overshoot yourself and not land on any bombs, or you don't bonk any bombs. More than likely, when you're bouncing off of bomb 2 here, it will go right to the springs on the fallen thwomp, which is intended. I've only had one case where I've controlled my movement so much that I bonked bomb 1 correctly, but I somehow bounced bomb 2 off to the left. If this happens, you're too good at the video game. Congratulations. So after you bonk bomb 1 up, immediately hold left to then go to bomb 2 laying in this middle mushroom platform. Be wary, this movement is controlled and not completely automatic. You can accidentally bounce bomb 2 to the right. You need to bounce it to the left to activate this switch, which is important for this bullet blaster to stay still. Jump to bomb 3, and again, this movement is controlled, so make sure to bounce it to the right this time. Go up to the sideways spring and kind of aim yourself near the right side of it. If the bomb is more right of the stem, stay neutral after going into the spring. If the bomb is more left of the stem, you have to shift yourself to the left since the bomb is going to be more to the left. Though for both situations, you want to hold right immediately after bouncing on bomb 3. The direction the bomb 3 goes in does not matter. Fortunately. After bouncing on bomb 3, you want to bonk the thwomp up. This part is kind of automatic since if you don't immediately go right, you just go through the thwomp and lose your shellmet. Go towards the Koopa and use the wall to keep your momentum going to the left. Now you want to aim yourself at the very right corner of the thwomp. This is so when you go left through the springs, you can bonk the munchers that activate the shell setup, and you won't just hit the bottom spring. After you bonk the munchers up, go to the right and control your movement to be just left of the mushroom stem indicator. You want to have enough momentum to the right, so when jumping off the red shell, you won't hit the wall like I did in this attempt. The jump to the spikes is almost a perfect full jump. After you bonk the thwomp up to the cloud using the shellmet, you'll land on the spikes, causing you to lose your shellmet. Now you're on a timer from the iframes. This next section can be a bit input heavy, so be prepared. Run to the raised spike and use it like a wall to carry your momentum to the left. You have to spin jump just before you hit the spike and go left. Bounce off the moving thwomp and aim your head to the corner of this land. If you go past it, you will either bonk the bomb or just be spin jumping off of it. Run towards the bomb and grab it, and as before, use the wall to carry your momentum, but to the right this time. Make sure to jump just before you hit the wall so you can get a full jump. A little after you jump, up through the bomb facing right. This is kind of like the surfer inputs as mentioned before. The bomb will activate a shell that you grab in a bit. Regrab the bomb, land on the spikes, then face left to throw it at the piranha plant stack. Immediately after throwing the bomb, jump. This is where your iframes end. This jump should also be a full jump, but if it's not, don't worry, it's barely still possible. Try to aim yourself one block to the right of the activated block, because that's where the shell will be falling at. After grabbing the shell, aim yourself to the left edge of the red block. This jump needs to be a full jump for the surfer to work. so this is where you'll get your speed from. Jump and stay flush to the wall, again to keep your momentum, and aim yourself to the left edge of the spring facing left. Throw the shell when you're just above the spikes. If you throw it too early, it will bounce off this wall. Keep holding left and bounce off the shell. The buzzy shell will activate the spiny shell for you to do another surfer. Turn to the right when you're above the activated block. You want to throw the shell at the right wall, a little bit before you start falling, so you'll be just above the shell for the next trick. The earlier you do it, the farther away you'll be from the shell, making the next part harder. After throwing the shell, a spring will fall from a claw. Grab the spring and be ready to time this next throw. When falling, you need to be a little bit behind the shell throughout the whole fall, so you have to control your movement. Slight taps on the stick and D-pad. Once you reach this part, where this aesthetic starts, throw the spring and start holding left. The spring will cause the falling thwomp to go up slightly and will crush the big bomb on top of it, activating the switch. Before the switch gets activated, the spring will stick to the bread wall, which will allow you to re-grab the spring. Keep holding left and bounce off the spiny shell. So this last trick came to my attention from a tweet I again saw from Luna. Obviously she skipped it in the clip, but that's where the idea came from anyway. To do this trick, you need to throw it just before you reach the right edge of the aesthetic. Also again, I describe these inputs as surfer inputs. If you throw too late, you'll hit the spring in the slope. Too early and you won't make it to the spring when the slope pushes you out of it. When you get pushed out of the slope, two situations can happen. You get pushed more to the left, hitting the left wall, or you barely make it out of the slope, causing you to just need to hold left and up. If you hit the left wall, you can use it to your advantage to aim yourself better into the up pipe. Just hold right and up after you reach about here. As a side note, this is also a good way to deal with up pipes in verses if they're set up like this. There's your versus tip of the day. Grab the red coin, jump over the spikes, and kill a Yoshi or two. Enter the key door and hey, you beat the level. Holy schmucking duck. Hopefully this video helped anyone who wants to grind this absolute jankfest of a level, or if you were just watching just to know what the fuck is even going on in this level, I appreciate it. If you have any questions regarding anything I might have missed, something you want me to elaborate on, or even anything regarding my other levels, please feel free to ask questions in the comments when I'm streaming, or if you'd like, in my Discord server. Links to my Twitch channel and server are in the description. I wish good luck to those who choose to grind this out, and hopefully you don't die like I did. Bye bye.